Moses Yuan. I am a Chinese filmmaker from Taiwan who is pursuing a lovely dreams in the United States of America. I've asked myself several questions. What makes the US so different? What is American spirit? What is American dream? Is any historical event that can demonstrate the friendship between Americans and Chinese? Here is Mr. Alan Baxter, a professor and film producer, who can tell us something of Chinese and American history.
Yes, Moses, I think we can find something in American history that might help you in your quest for what it is that we can find as a similarity between Chinese and American culture, or mindset rather. Let's go back to 1847 in California. Now in 1847 in California, that was the beginning of the famous gold rush. And during that period, there were many Chinese immigrants moving to the United States, trying to find a better living situation and trying to find a better living for themselves here in the United States, trying to find their own American dream. And many Chinese did find that by becoming laborers and workers on the famous Transcontinental Railroad. So from 1847 to say 1872, many Chinese workers worked on completing the Transcontinental. These Chinese laborers completed the most dangerous tasks, including being tied in a rope sling or in a basket and conduct explosions between the Nevada mountain range and the Los Angeles mountain range. And Chen Yi was born in China during the Qing dynasty, and according to his family tree, he was born on December 14, 1845. Now in 1860, when Chen was not even 16, he took a long trip by boat along with Dao Yi Chen to America. And in the U.S., Chen did not become a laborer, but became a household helper in the home of a railroad engineer. Now, the care and responsibility displayed by Chen moved the family of the engineer. The wife of the engineer taught Chen English. The engineer then sent him to night school at the railroad school. And in 1865, while in his early 20s, Chen already joined the project of maintaining and building the American Central Pacific Railroad. Another person comes along in this drama, a very important person, Thomas Burke. Now, Burke was born in Clinton County, New York on December 22, 1849, of strong Irish antecedents, Irish as a clay pipe, and well liked by early Seattle's largely Irish working class. As a lawyer, Burke was well known for collecting large fees from his wealthy clients and providing free legal services for the poor. Therefore, many were surprised when he opposed the working class anti-Chinese agitation in 1885 and 1886, allying instead with George Kinnear and his Home Guard in providing armed defense for the Chinese against vigilantism. In this, he was a defender not so much of the Chinese themselves as of the rule of law. When one of the anti-Chinese rioters died of a gunshot during the violence, Burke was among those charged with shooting with intent to kill. However, none were ever actually brought to trial. Anyway, Thomas Burke, who came to be Chief Justice of the Washington State Supreme Court, arrived in Seattle in 1875 at the age of 25. A lawyer, he began practicing law, and within a couple of years was elected probate judge. He was a civic activist, becoming involved in education, railroading, and the cultural growth of the city. Meanwhile, in April 1865, the Civil War ended. Many Americans returned from the battlefields to the society. The new conflict was between the Caucasian and other race immigrants in the workforce. The American society felt that the high unemployment rate was due to large numbers of low-cost laborers moving in from Asia. Factoring in racial discrimination, the Caucasian Americans became more discontented and started protesting. And on May 6, 1882, the government was forced to pass laws to limit the rights of the Chinese. These laws were passed against the Chinese people who were unhappy with the Qing dynasty in China and who received the opportunity to build the Intercontinental Railroad and who moved to the western United States. Chinese, however, lost the right to sue or to press charges in court against the Caucasian. These were the first laws that targeted immigrants of a specific race and nationality. Under all these unequal circumstances and the support of the United States government, bloody conflicts broke out all over the country. The lives and wealth of Chinese people in America had zero protection. The passing of these laws was a major step backwards for America's goal of providing freedom and equality.
The ones who were coming here were men, almost completely. Very few Chinese women came here in the 19th century, very few. But the men, many of them had families, and they were spending as little as possible so they can send money back to their families. And some of them sent, quite a substantial amount of money back to their families. And also, there is an element of racial prejudice that was involved in this too. As far as the Chinese were involved. The racial prejudice was not really the main factor, in my opinion. The main factor was the economic factor of, job rivalry. Especially what happened was that after the Civil War led to a considerable expansion of the American economy, and there were jobs for everybody. And even after that, even during the building of the railroad, different railroads, the Union Pacific and other railroads in which the Chinese were extremely significant in building as laborers, there was still a lot of work. But in the later 19th century, there was an economic crash and actually a depression. So jobs became very scarce in America, and many Native Americans and European immigrants couldn't find jobs. And then the rivalry with the Chinese became even more significant because while a Chinese person could exist on less money than Europeans and Americans were willing to exist on. So employers, when things are hard, then that's when racial discrimination also becomes worse than when prosperity is around. So they became even more of a rival. The Chinese immigrants became even more of a rival during economic hardships than they were during economic prosperity. Yeah.
Now, between 1871 and 1903, there were various incidents in which Chinese were massacred. On November 5, 1885, Chen reacted to the anti-American incidents all over America. He reached out to the mayor of Seattle and to Judge Thomas Burke and discussed the situation in Seattle. The mayor persuaded Chen to take the local Chinese immigrants and to leave Seattle and to avoid the publicity. The mayor and Judge Thomas Burke felt that it was very difficult to control the situation. They said that the rioters were no longer an individual by individual phenomenon, but instead the rioters now represented a wide sector of the American society. Even though the police were trying their best to maintain order, attacks were difficult to control. For the safety of the Chinese immigrants, it would be better if they left Seattle. Chen laughed and responded, "According to my understanding of American history, the original inhabitants of this land were the Native American Indians, and the ancestors of the Caucasian Americans all immigrated from Europe. Your ancestors moved to America because they wanted to escape the European monarchy and the repression of feudal society. Your ancestors hoped to build a free and equal society on this new land. And your Constitution originated from the Bible because your ancestors wanted to embody such a spirit. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." Perhaps it is precisely because of this I feel the need to stay in Seattle. I do not doubt your faithfulness to your law, but I doubt your courage to go against so much ignorance in the name of the law. If I leave, you will no longer be facing these issues. Justice and wickedness, civility and ignorance, the legal system and barbaric conflicts will all disappear. But as long as I am here, you are unable to conceal the contradictions. If I am hurt during this time, then the whole American legal system is also hurt, because this means the complete collapse of the legal system. Your dreams of escaping monarchy and feudal societies are completely destroyed as well. If I die, all your American dreams will die with me. The judge, Thomas Burke, was shocked by Chen's words. That night, Judge Thomas Burke held a meeting with the citizens of Seattle. This meeting was described in detail in the book, The History of Seattle. And during this meeting, Thomas, who normally was the spokesperson for the white laborers, came forward and stated a famous and long-lasting declaration in which the judge reprimanded the illegal actions of the rioters. The issue we are facing is, do the actions being conducted come from a law-abiding and justice-respecting America? Or do these actions come from violent and lawless foreigners? I am an American. I appeal to all Americans to choose between legal and illegal methods. I choose the American way. It does not matter if a person immigrated to the U.S. or was born in the U.S. If he does not stand on the side of the law, then he is not a true American. If a person shows disdain or tramples on the law that I uphold or sullies the legal system of this republic, then this person is unworthy of his American citizenship. It does not matter if the American government, under the permission of the people, invites Chinese to this country. The American government signed a solemn treaty with China. The Chinese are the same as the people who came from other countries. Under the protection of the law, they enjoy the right to life, freedom, and the pursuit of happiness. Today, I am not only restricted by the American legal system and the solemn promise I made to uphold the law, but under the consideration of humanity and justice. I have to protect the Chinese people from these immoral acts. The judge won this round for morality and justice. It also became clear to Chen that the anti-Chinese law was unconstitutional, which meant he had the right to sue anyone in court. So he made up his mind and took his first steps towards suing those who passed the anti-Chinese law. the U.S. government itself. And when Judge Thomas Burke received the declaration from Chen, he also had a difficult decision to make. On one side, he had to consider his own people and the U.S. government. On the other side were the Chinese people and justice. He was under great pressure to make a right and just decision. However, Chen finally won the case in the Supreme Court. Judge Burke determined that the U.S. government should repay the Chinese people $700,000 in United States dollars, and that Chinese could stay in the U.S. with their human rights restored under the United States Constitution. Now, after a while, Chen became a very successful railroad engineer and a businessman in the U.S. And when he was 60 years old, he decided to go back to his home country, China, in order to help his country to build their own railroad. However, these people he hired, who were part of the Qing dynasty, were corrupted by greed. That made Chen very sad, angry, and disillusioned with the state of the affairs in China. And even though Chen finally built the first railroad for China, the country was still very weak. Chen realized that China must change in order to become stronger. So he gave all his support and hope to a man who wanted to bring a revolution to China, a revolution to bring democracy to China. That was the father of modern China, Sun Yat-sen.
Thank you.